Good evening. Oh, so I made a video recently answering questions that I had been avoiding, but it was in vlog format and a lot of you wanted like a dedicated video, so that's what this is. Fingers crossed, no capitalism rants in this one, but we'll see, there's always room. Oh, awesome, few hundred comments. We're not gonna get through all of them. Straight off the bat, I am definitely gonna miss some. But before we begin, this is one of the new shirts that's available at riftsupplyco.com, my clothing brand. It's just one of the new tees that's available on the website. We also have this awesome acid wash hat. We've got this new tee as well, and there's also the crop top version of it, if that's more your style. It's got a bit of this happening on the back. There's definitely a better way to show you. A photo would do. And best of all, we've got Afterpay at Rift, so you can pay $0 up front for any of these. Pretty stoked about this one. It's got embroidery on the back and of course on the front as well. It's like acid wash denim. I'm so stoked on this. While I remember, go follow me on Instagram at Brianne if you want to. Give this video a like. I think that's all I have to request from you today. All right, jumping into the questions. God, nice and light, really easy one to jump into. If you had your life over again, what would you do different? Bloody hell. I don't think I would change much, or if anything at all. Not for any like no regrets, you only live once type reason. More so just because thinking about like all the different things that I could change and benefit from, that's a lot of pressure. I think if I were to start again and know that I was going to be able to change something, that would be way too much pressure and I would be perpetually unhappy and weighed down by the expectation of taking advantage of that particular set of circumstances. I'd rather just wing it and not know what's gonna happen as I currently am. And then there's the old like everything I've done has led me to this point, and this point honestly is good enough. Like I spawned into this universe as a dumbass apparently. Like I spawned into this universe in a first world wealthy country, arguably one of the most beautiful countries in the world, with a good family, good friends, a good upbringing, managed to create a job for myself that I actually enjoy, which is quite rare. I don't have any like chronic health conditions. I'm certainly not loaded, but I'm also not broke. I can afford all of my basic needs. It would be a little bit indulgent, I think, and sort of a slap in the face to the jackpot I have won to want to go back and change anything. Although being born male would be living life with literally every single privilege on easy mode would be great. But no, I don't think I would do anything differently. Stupidest thing you've done while drunk. How to narrow that down. One time at uni, someone who isn't me got very, very, very drunk and stole a golf buggy and drove it into a couple of things, and not on a road and not near any civilians. But if I did do that, that wouldn't have been a great idea. Also, I climbed up this statue and decided to jump off over my friend's head and I broke my foot, so that probably wasn't very smart. It's not super big brained of me. I did let my little evolutionary monkey brain come out a few times. Did you have acne as a teenager? If not, then why not? How do I answer why not? I didn't have like acne as a teenager. I definitely got like a pimple here or there, but as far as the whole like teenager getting acne, that kind of thing, that didn't really happen to me. I don't know why. My sister didn't really have that problem either, so probably largely genetics. But I did start getting acne like randomly out of the blue, maybe like a year or two ago now. Yeah, this time last year it was definitely like clearing up, but yeah, probably like 6 months to a year before that, don't quote me on these timelines, I started getting acne out of nowhere. Except I don't think it was out of nowhere. I think I was drinking a lot at the time. I was very stressed out at the time. I was eating like shit and I wasn't really exercising that much. So it's not shocking. In hindsight, it's not shocking that I ended up getting acne, but for me at the time, I did not put two and two together because I've never had acne. I didn't really have any idea of how to deal with it, what causes breakouts, what might lead to flare-ups. Like I didn't know any of that. I didn't start using a moisturizer until I got acne. Like I didn't have a proper cleanser until I got acne. I had no skincare routine at all. So when this stuff started, I was like, excuse me, like what do you do? Went to dermatologists, they were like, yeah, go on an antibiotic. But knowing what I know about antibiotics and the microbiome, I didn't just want to blast all of the bacteria out of my body, including the good bacteria, especially when the bacteria that causes acne can be fought with good bacteria. So I learned a lot more about acne, what causes it, blah, 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 dietary changes you can make, skincare routine changes you can make. My sister's right into like health and skincare and that kind of stuff, so I had a big chat with her, and something similar did happen to her, but as a result of like going overseas and getting some kind of a bug, for whatever reason, gave her acne. And I'm paraphrasing, this might not be the exact story, this was a while ago. Anyway, one thing led to another. I got a whole new skincare routine, which didn't really fix the problem, but then I started changing what I was eating, and I started eating what my sister ate to clear up her acne, which was basically like no sugar at all in any way, shape or form. Not even like simple carbs, which break down into sugar too readily, because those like glucose spikes, whatever you call them, can cause breakouts. So even if I was eating like white rice, I changed it to black rice. No pasta, no soft drinks, nothing with sugar. I even really restricted fruit intake, but I did severely increase how many vegetables I was eating. I also ate like a shit ton of probiotics like kombucha. Kefir, which is made of dairy, so that might not be recommended for some people because I know dairy can cause breakouts as well. But I was eating kefir for a little bit, and I just put sauerkraut with literally every single thing that I ate. I also put hemp fiber powder on everything that I ate. Basically the idea was like bad bacteria or acne causing bacteria like feeds off and thrives on sugars, so you just don't want to have sugar in your system as much as you possibly can control that. And the good bacteria or like acne fighting bacteria thrives with fiber. So eating a lot of like high fiber foods, and like the hemp powder for example is really high in fiber. And basically that's like the approach of doctors and dermatologists prescribing antibiotics, is that it does kill off all of the acne causing bad bacteria, if you want to call it that, but it also wipes out your whole microbiome and all of the good bacteria as well. And what changing your diet can do is essentially the same thing, but it did take months and months of doing that for it to start working. But overall, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor, completely like wiping out all of the bacteria, good bacteria included, in your body, to me and in a lot of bodies of science isn't always the best thing to do, and I didn't want to do it just for skin. So also as someone who's never had acne, if I was getting it, clearly there was some imbalance somewhere in my body, so switching to a healthier diet was obviously not going to hurt. And considering my lifestyle choices at the time, including what I was eating, probably influenced it a lot. So ultimately just switching to a healthier diet, to be honest. And that is my experience with acne. I hated it. I am so thankful that didn't happen to me as a teenager, because even as an adult with good self-esteem, that was so shit to deal with, especially having to upload onto the internet all the time. But anyway, that was my experience with acne. No, I didn't have it as a teenager. You're honestly so chill. How do you have your sort of confidence? Just fake it till you make it, honestly. I'd say I'm fairly confident in myself, but also what you're currently watching is me alone in a room in a comfortable environment, and I also get to edit this afterwards, so there is really nothing for me to be nervous about. I do get nervous in social settings quite often. I'm definitely more of an introvert, but with like general confidence, and to build that up, if you just put yourself in situations that you're uncomfortable in, you do build up confidence, and especially confidence walking into uncomfortable situations. That for me would be like social settings, especially going into that alone. But it's even happened with like work before, like just doing things I've never done and sort of blindly winging it, which is most of pretty much everything I do. Just do that. Does it excite you to have overseas viewers, aka people like me who stay up till 3 just to see if you uploaded? Cheers from Minnesota. Hello. Yeah, it's actually really sick having people that watch me from overseas, because most of my audience is Australian. Also, staying up till 3 AM to see if I uploaded is incredibly flattering. Do you have a career plan, or do you just play it by year? Bit of both. I do have a long-term plan that does change obviously when you're like short-term goals change, your long-term goals have to change as well. But yeah, I do have like a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan that is quite fluid, because again, things change all the time. And the rest of it I do just play, probably not by year, but month by month. I write down a bunch of goals at the beginning of each month, and then at the end of it I review what I did tick off, what I didn't, and then put it like a little reflection of why I didn't tick it off, because sometimes life just gets in the way of that, and I don't want to look back on these goals and be like, what a useless bitch, she just didn't tick off any of this stuff. So if there was just things that are happening, I'll put it in the reflections. Or if I did just fall short on completing a goal because I was being lazy, I'll put that down too, because that's always something you can just improve on. Have you ever considered not doing Rift anymore? It's literally never crossed my mind. I genuinely really enjoy it. Even if I wasn't doing it for a brand, I would probably still be trying to make custom clothes for myself, because I just tend to do that anyway, and that's actually what started this whole thing. So it's literally never crossed my mind to stop doing Rift. How do you say graph? You've previously mentioned going to a Catholic school your whole life, which I assume means that at some point religion was a part of your life to some degree. It's a lot of qualifiers there. At this point, do you believe in a higher power or God, or do you lean towards atheism? Neither really. I just don't think about religion. I still kind of see atheism as a form of a religion. I don't believe that there's a God in a traditional sense. I do kind of think that there is some higher force. I just don't personally think if it existed that it would give a fuck about my personal day-to-day experience on this planet. Like a higher consciousness, maybe a connected consciousness, sure, but not a God in the typical religious sense. But I definitely do not think of myself as an atheist, purely because of how I sort of deconstruct and logic my way through things. And maybe it's because I'm either misunderstanding atheism or being pedantic, but I don't think I can sit there and say for an absolute fact that there is no God. because I just don't know that. Atheism, as far as I understand it, is the rejection of gods or the belief that there are no gods. As much as I don't know for sure that there is a god, which is why I wouldn't say I'm religious, I also don't know for sure that there's not a god because I'm a dumb little human being. Like, what do I know? Who am I to sit there and claim as a fact that there are no gods whatsoever? I can't logically do that, so I wouldn't call myself an atheist either. Have you heard / what is your opinion about the rumors that Daniel Andrews wanted to use the coronavirus to break Victoria's economy so that China could buy it? I just really try hard not to entertain stupidity, and I'm not calling the person posting this stupid, but what the fuck does that mean? Break Victoria's economy so China can buy it. No, I don't think that's happening. You can't just buy a state's economy because it's weak. It's not like falling house prices. That's not how it works. Could crushing Victoria's economy make it more likely that people could overlook or people could justify someone selling parts of the industries in Victoria to China or doing deals with China? Sure. But that is a fucking stretch. Probably not with all the anti-China rhetoric going around, and I also just I don't think the way it's phrased in this comment, that's just not happening. Good suburbs in Brisbane that are close to the beach but not too far away from unis. Literally none of them. None of them at all. If you had the option to kill a certain president of a certain amount of states that are united and you got away with it, would you do it? No, that's a no from me, and here's why. Donald motherfucking Trump is just the inevitable outcome of the people who elected him. Trump is a pretty irrelevant figurehead because if it wasn't him who got elected, it would be another cookie cutter, white supremacist, alleged rapist, misogynist billionaire who got rich from scamming the working class, essentially, and getting lots of pocket money from his daddy. He's not the first of his kind, he certainly won't be the last, but more importantly, him getting elected had a lot less to do with him specifically and just had a lot more to do with his voter base. He's like the top of the pyramid. His little groupie political bros are under that. A whole area of systemic corporate corruption and funding sits under that. A bunch of lobbyists are probably in there somewhere as well. Russia probably fits in there too. And his voter base is the biggest part under that. So him at the top, that's the most useless part of a pyramid. If you want the whole thing to collapse, you can't just knock the top off. You have to like dismantle the whole foundation, which isn't easy. So you can assassinate presidents all day long and nothing will change if you don't fix the absolute rot at the bottom of it, in my opinion. Do you think radical feminists have gotten to a point where they're pushing too much against men, in which they are trying to change it from equal rights to a world where it's women have more rights than men? Jesus Christ, the wording on that. Look, I tend not to engage with these kind of comments because generally, from the way it's written, you can sort of tell they've already made up their mind, and their confirmation bias is probably already going to stop them from seeing the full picture. But in the same way that I don't really pay attention to religion, I don't really pay attention to what radical feminists are saying or doing. It's quite irrelevant. I also try my best to try and avoid what's going on in like right-wing extremism. I try to limit my doom scrolling basically and things that might make me angry for no reason, with the obvious difference being that like right-wing extremism has much more tangible consequences because they already hold systemic power, and right-wing extremism by nature tends to result in more like abject violence, so it's a lot harder to ignore than whatever radical feminists are saying on the internet. Radical feminists do not hold the same level of power as men, so anything that they are saying about hypothetically wanting women to have more rights than men, if that is their goal, it just doesn't hold the same weight. So to be perfectly honest, whatever is happening in the world of radical feminism is already a bit beyond my scope of knowledge. But let's assume that what you're saying here is true and that end stage radical feminism does look like the switch of men being in power to women being in power. In that case, I would ask you to ask yourself why you're so comfortable with the current state of things, which is men having more power and privilege than women, but you're terrified of the prospect of women having more power and more privilege than men, and just generally men being treated the way that men have treated women for all of human history, more or less. Why is one acceptable to you but not the inverse? As a feminist, I'd say that neither of them are fine because both of them demonstrate inequality based on something as stupid as sex and gender, and that is quite literally what feminism aims to address. So in a world where women had more power and privilege and influence than men, and in a world where men were oppressed, obviously that would need to be addressed in that world. However, since in the actual real world men have more power in basically every social, economic and political sphere, we should obviously be focusing on that, on what's happening in reality and not in some fear-driven hypothetical that doesn't exist and has no way of existing anytime soon, if at all. So do I think radical feminists have gotten to that point? No, I don't think they've gotten to that point. Also, they don't have the facilities to get to that point anytime soon, so it's not even remotely a threat. What I'm concerned about and what I support is feminism, which is very simply the push to establish equality based on gender. That's it. In general, I'm just not interested in entertaining or arguing about these weird paranoid hypotheticals people that are just not happening. I'm concerned with the problems and inequality that's actually happening as a conclusion. Anyway, I might have to wrap the video up there because my battery is flashing again. Let's leave on a lighthearted one actually, because I know I've ruffled some feathers. I know someone is angrily writing a comment right now, so let's find a fun one. Can you make a surfing video? As soon as I am coordinated enough to surf and hold a GoPro without losing it, because they're quite expensive, I will make a surfing video. If you've watched this far, thank you for watching this far. Feel free to subscribe and put the bell on if you feel like it. I give shout outs at the end of every video to people who do that. I also clap a lot when I'm running out of breath. YouTube shout out goes to Jenny B. Instagram shout out goes to Instagram's moved the notifications around. Why did they do that? Lausa02 and I don't think that's how you pronounce it. TikTok shout out goes to SkyMiller69. Thank you guys for subscribing, putting the bell on, existing in this part of the internet at all. I hope you finished writing your angry comment now. I will see you in the I'll see you in a few days with a new video or in the comments section.